Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the official Trackmania channel for Step 6 of the Trackmania Grand League Fall 2021 Challenger season. We're about to start in 15 minutes. You get to see all the action live right here, right now on this channel. Hello everybody, I'm Thomas Mengozi, aka GGeek, glad again to be your host for today's running of the Challengers, and alongside me for today is none other than Leachy. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, Geek. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you to Ubisoft Nadeo, who I'm hopefully going to help them believe that this was not a mistake. This was not a mistake having me on today. We're going to do our absolute best. Geek, I am super excited to be here and super excited to talk about some cars going as fast as humanly possible.
Yeah, so you usually talk about cars yourself, although they are doing a little bit of a different action. Can you maybe present yourself for some of the community that might be discovering you?
Sure, yeah. So I come from the world of Rocket League, so there are still cars involved, but they are rocket-propelled cars that can boost and flip on command, so a little bit different compared to Trackmania. But hey, there's still four wheels, and they're still trying to go as fast as possible. So for me, it's a pretty close crossover, or at least one that makes sense in my mind. But yeah, I'm all over minor league esports. I'm working on working on the career as a bubble scene commentator, and I love Trackmania to death. It is something that I have come across quite recently and have absolutely fallen in love with both the game, the community, and the esports scene. So I could not be happier to be here today talking about the sixth step here in the Trackmania Grand League Challenger Series.
Yeah, indeed. As long as cars go vroom, that's all that matters in the end. So
exactly.
Yeah, that's some words to live by right there. Now, in the meantime, of course, we are going to be getting started in less than 15 minutes with Step 6. But before that, a quick recap of what happened on Step number 5. Otak winning the step with 370 points, 74 points scored in the first 4 races, not dropping out of the top 8 even once, and then won the big, juicy multiplier with the 8th and final round win, winning times 5, 370 points in first place. Then in second position, we find Mime with 168 points, 56 points scored in the first 4 races, then winning a level 3 multiplier. He won round 6, and just before him, Energize won round 5, which was also a level 3 multiplier. He scored 52 points, thus finishing in third place with 156 points. Default and Miquatro P4 and P5, they both won a level 2 multiplier, but Default scored 64 points, with Miquatro scoring 54 points at the end of those 4 races before multiplying that. With that out of the way, let's take a look at the standings before the start of step number 6. So, for the first time this season, we had a lead change. Otak taking the lead with 1,237 points, Mime in second place with 1,174 points, and you can see a clear gap between second and third. Hydra in third with 602 points, but Hydra now has bearing down on him. Evon and Energize just within 20 points of him. 595 for Evon, 586 for Energize. And then from 6th through 10th, only 106 points covered those 5 players. Swosile, Miquatro, Razi, Link, and Cap in order. Then from 11th through 13th, they're still within 100 points. So yeah, it could still very much in big contention. And then of course, the bottom 3 hasn't really changed in the form of Exotica, Fegli, and Revo in that order. Still plenty of hotspots to actually cover here, and especially that hotspot for the top 3, which is the last cash prize paying position at the end of the season.
I will say there are a couple of things that I would like to highlight here, Geek. The first off being that gigantic gap between P2 and 3 in the standings. Hydra needs to almost double his points to even get anywhere close to Mime. Mime's consistency throughout this entire competition has really, really been showing up. I mean, step 1 and 2, he won. Step 3 was a little bit of a hiccup, went all the way down to P5, but then 4 and 5 finished second in a row. So absolutely fantastic performance from Mime, not surprising many people here. He's been an absolute godsend in terms of just the competitive spirit here. Otak really been the only person who is able to hold a candle to him. And then, as you mentioned, that battle between third, I mean, honestly, what was that? P5, P6, all the way down through P10. Razi is at that cutoff point. You want to be P8 or above to get into the final stages of this competition to have a shot at qualifying for the Big Daddy, the full fat Trackmania Grand League. and it is extremely tight. Honestly, I think Otak and Mime can start to feel a little bit more confident. They have got this locked up so well in terms of the points totals that they've got. Everyone below them, it really is going to be a fight tooth and nail for every single possible point. Don't forget, there are extra points on offer for the fastest lap here at the end of every run. So those are going to be honestly something that I'm going to be looking out for at the end of every single 6-lapper, because like I said, every single point counts here.
Yeah, exactly. The 2 points for fastest laps are even more important, especially considering that those 4 races are very important, almost as important as a multiplier in the fact that you have to be good and perform well in those 6-lappers to establish a baseline score. You want to establish as much of as good a baseline score as you possibly can, so that you can still have a somewhat decent haul of points, even if you decide to go safe with a 2-time multiplier. Of course, you can try to, of course, go for the full jackpot and try to go for the big 3x, 4x, or 5x. But it still gives you a little bit of a cushion, well, not a cushion, but still a bit of a reassuring factor that you actually perform well in the 6-lappers. And we've seen that across both leagues, Challenger and the actual Trackmania Grand League, that there is not much you can do to recover from a bad step in the 6-lappers. If you score below 20 or 30 points, that's it. You're not going to be of any factor in the point standings, and you're not going to be able to climb up the standings as much as you would have liked.
And I'll tell you, just to kind of touch on that as well, one player that I have unfortunately needed to highlight a couple times just in my own personal viewing of TMGLC has been Nixotica, a player who is so unbelievably fast on his day, but unfortunately the consistency is letting him down a little bit. We saw last week Nixotica, I think it was, what was it, 8 thousandths of a second?
0.008.
Yeah, exactly. Before getting his first multiplier of the entire series. Painfully close. As my American brethren, I will be secretly rooting for him. We'll maintain non-biased, I promise you. But it's moments like that have you kind of understanding how close the competition is here. Nixotica is one of those players that I'm looking to be able to up the consistency a little bit, because honestly, that's it. He's got the raw pace. He just needs to make it happen every single time, and things are going to start looking up for him.
Yeah, and especially Nixotica now in dire need of points as we approach the final stages of the season. He's one of those bottom 3 spots that he wants to absolutely get out of if he wants to actually have a fight to stay in the Challenger. Remember, the bottom 3 at the end of the season get automatically relegated to the Open, leaving in their place the top 3 of the Opens for the next season as well. So yeah, plenty of things to actually take a look at, of course, ahead of 6 weeks and of course ahead of the rest of the season, because I feel like those changing of places and the swapping of positions are still very much going to be a recurring theme in the midfield and also the upper part of the leaderboard, which is still definitely something to look out for. But now, let's get down to the business of step number 6 and take a look at the maps that we're going to be playing today. Starting off, of course, with the first 6-lapper, which is going to be Vertigo by Popwets, the final appearance of Vertigo and the final appearance of what I like to call a bit of a casino of a map, especially with those pipes in the middle section that are so treacherous that can basically completely end your run if you completely fly off the map. Then, of course, we have Poolside by Kisla with wet wheels alongside plastic, dirt, and tarmac interactions. Launchpad by Ubisoft Nadeo that we were a little bit previously on the warm-up phase. Then we have, of course, Bolt Holes by Rocket, the first 6-lapper held on this map. And then the brand new map for the week, Grasshopper by Kisla, marking the return of the bumpers, as well as a bug slide identity infused in the identity. This is going to be pretty interesting.
Here's the Leachy cheat sheet. Vertigo, hate it. Poolside, pretty good. Launchpad, hate it. Bolt Holes, love it. My favorite TMGL map ever, and I'm super excited to see this in a 6-lap format. And Grasshopper, it's pretty good. I will say I needed to give it more credit as I started playing it and got faster and faster on it. I was like, what is this identity? This isn't like really that difficult. And then I started getting closer to those silvers and the gold medal, and I was like, okay, I get it. I see what we're supposed to do now. And I think it was, who was it? I think it was on Mudda's stream, actually. I saw him landing that first one in the bug slide off of that first kind of springboard section. I was like, that's what I'm supposed to do. And it kind of blew my mind a little bit. So super excited to see Bolt Hole 6 lap and Grasshopper just in the 2-lap format. I am here for it. There's some fantastic maps on offer today.
Now, just a bit of a subjectivity. I feel the same way that you do about Vertigo. Nah. It doesn't sit well.
Not a fan.
It never sits well, especially if you're rooting for a player that you're commentating for. It never sits well whenever your player gets yeeted off. But that's a totally different subject. That's not, of course, the business of the challengers. We are 5 minutes before the start of the step, and I think we should go in the game. So here we are on the server. I'm also going to be reinstating the sound of the cars so that you can actually hear those engines go brr and those cars go vroom vroom. There he goes. As we're currently warming up on Bolt Holes, which is going to be, of course, the host of the 4th 6-lap race. You can see everybody's on the server training, and of course, we can't help but have a little bit of a gander at OTAC from Lille Esports Academy. 1,237 points, and he's looking increasingly good this season. He's been one of the top contenders, but now, thanks to his performance on Step 5, he looks to be one of the favorites potentially to get into the head-to-head and maybe aim for a TMGL spot.
I'd like to see his performance here in the 6th lap. I must admit, I don't fully remember how he did on the 2-lapper last week, but it is, I would venture a guess as to say, this is probably one of the most doable maps, and that's probably also why I have such an affinity for it, is that it was the easiest for me to wrap my head around, and as a non-pro player, that probably means even smaller gaps for people who are at this level of competition. And here in TMGLC, it is going to be, the smallest gaps possible. OTAC, very capable player. I mean, he's not at the point standings, or at the top of the point standings for no reason. So going to make a dent here, I would imagine. But I would say, apart from the obvious being that Mime is going to be the person that he's trying to hold back as much as possible, because they do have that monopoly at P1 and 2 at the top of the leaderboard. But everybody under them, P3 through 8, I think is going to be the much more interesting group to watch, in my opinion.
Yeah, now, you mentioned that it's one of the more approachable and one of the main things, one of the more easier maps to get your head around, and you were expecting smaller gaps. I would be cautious about the identity. The identity's theory is very simple, but the execution required and the amount of precision in that execution required to actually pass that consistently, this is actually what's going to make the bulk of the difficulty of this map. That lineup for the first jump, essentially, if you mess up your lineup by 1 pixel, or go 1 km/h too early, or a little bit too quick, or steer at the last moment to a bit of a different direction than you would usually do, then unfortunately you risk clipping one of the sides of the holes, which could compromise your speed at the end. You'd be very lucky to actually get away with a clip that doesn't penalize your speed. Evon was feeling lucky in one of those rounds in the 2-lappers, but it ultimately fell off the wayside at the final jump. Or even worse, you could just full stop pick and do a full wicked 360 or a front flip, and that would completely wreck your momentum, because after that you're forced to respawn, and with the penalty that comes with the respawn and how far behind it is, that's going to be pretty much going to be your run ender, especially in that 6-lapper. Whilst in the 2-lappers, you could go full send. Here on the 6-lapper, we might expect some players and the gaps to be a bit wider than what we've seen in previous maps. Anyways, we're about to go racing here on Step 6 of the TMGL Challenger Fall 2021 season, and we're going to go straight away onto map number 1, Vertigo by Popwet, the final appearance of this map in the regular season, and the final 6-lapper to be played on this map. And yeah, as I said, final time we'll get to see those pipes in action. Of course, the main highlight is the reactor boost pipe, but of course this one pipe right here could be a very real run killer, going down the inside on the left-hander, trying to keep as much ground contact as possible. And yeah, it's a very real possibility for you to actually completely fly off and fall off, and even more so with the reactor boost one, because you also have to keep in mind that the reactor boost downwards are going to force you down whichever way your car is pointing, so you have to be very careful with the placement of your car here around those pipes.
Could not agree more. That middle pipe, that kind of 180 section where it's that 90-degree left followed by an immediate other 90-degree left, honestly, I feel like is going to be even trickier, because you don't have the reactor boost to kind of help you maintain grip on that pipe. And it really is just like this full send section where people are willing to risk the most amount of time. Well, technically just risk in general, but you can make up a decent amount of time there, but dear Lord, it takes a lot of risk and calculation to make that work. And as we get to the roughly final 30 seconds here of the warm-up, I am very curious to see who is going to be that confident person right here, like right in the offing, the first map of the day. Who is going to be feeling it? You know, who's kind of feeling a little bit big for their britches, and they're going to take it a little bit hotter into that section than maybe anybody else, and hopefully come away with some profit there.
Yeah, exactly. So last week it was Hydra who won the race here, the 6-lapper, which was of course race 2, and the fastest lap is courtesy of Snow from Team Plus competition with a 102.073. The first of 4 6-lap races is now underway, and I suggest we actually follow along with Evon, currently sitting in P4 in the standings.
Decent drift out to the inside. Everybody taking the conservative line there. We've seen people take that triangle line through that first checkpoint just to save a little bit of time. It is an extremely risky one, but apparently not a risk that anybody was willing to take here as we come around now through this wall ride down the advertising board. We line up for the first pipe here. Relatively easy to line up for. Avon just kind of hanging out in P12, letting everybody get ahead of him. But that's the great thing about this format. It's a 6-lapper. There's plenty of time. Everybody going nice. A few tumbles down there, down the order. We'll have to see as Avon, it winds up working perfectly for him. Shakes out into P7 here, halfway through this first lap.
Yeah, unfortunately, we had a couple of people, Otak, Hydra, Razi, Miquatro having made a mistake as well. Their championship leader is very much down at the bottom, currently sitting in P14. Razi, the farthest one down in the pack. Meanwhile, at the front, it's Snow and Dofalt, the 2 teammates from BS Plus, under currently being harassed by Wosile from Game Ward, and Snow having a bad landing. Same for Dofalt, and Wosile scoots through into the lead and takes the lead in the early benchmark with a 105.598. Energized and Soldier promoted up to 2nd and 3rd place. Now, thankfully for both Dofalt and Snow, they managed to make it clear and they're able to continue within the top 8, but that could have been an early lead and a sort of whole shot, quote unquote, for lap number 1 as Snow gets ahead of Cap and moves up to P6.
Top 5 being able to break away here. We see Wosile on a confident lead. Avon now has scooted his way all the way up to P2. But this is a very tight-knit battle for P2. 4 players in the mix here. Let's see how conservative they decide to play it. Avon, nice and slow. Backing this up a little bit. We see Snow having to respawn. Unfortunately, he is all the way down now below the top 8. Otak even further, well, not further back, just 1 spot up, but not quite as high as he'd prefer to be. The battle for P2 still heating up. Actually, it's the entire lead now as they look to get through this final identity section. Everybody nice and cautious. Taking it up and around. Very nicely done. Nice and clean. We look to start lap number 3 here on Vertigo.
Yeah, 103.463. We're still a little bit slow compared to the fastest lap mark that was established, of course, last week by Snow, but still very much a battle brewing between Wosile and Dofalt. Wosile taking the lead away from the Belgian for BS Plus competition. Then we have Energized a little bit further behind, 2/10 down in P3, and Evon a further 2 to 3/10 down in P4. Evon potentially trying to play the waiting game here, trying to weigh in his chances, trying to potentially wait for someone to make a mistake, waiting to pounce. We see how he was a bit more conservative on lap 2 over these pipes compared to someone like Dofalt, who just tried to carry as much speed as he could. That ended up benefiting him versus Evon, as we had a few other mistakes. Apparently Hydra down to P14, Snow, of course, as you pointed out, down to last place at the moment. Otak now moving back up to P9, thanks to the mistakes and trials and tribulations of other players, and currently sitting 1.6 seconds down on the top 8 that is needed for those big points. 15 points for P8 and 5 for P9, remember. In the meantime, battle for P2 again, now commencing between Energized, Evon, and Dofalt. Dofalt with a better exit speed from the pipe section and moves back up into P2 after being beaten to the punch at the start of lap number 4, but Wosile in the meantime has already pulled a gap of around 0.7 of a second.
Want to scoot back just a little bit. Take a look at the battle for P6. We got Miquatro, Nixotica, and Cap going at it. This is the consistency that I was talking about earlier on, Geek. I wanted to see this from Nixotica, and sure, he's not fighting for the lead, but crucially, he's not down in those single-digit points areas. He went a little bit high in that wall right, but that's fine because he's still fighting up in P8. He's got those double-digit points locked down as of right now. There's still about 2.5 laps left to go. Let's see how he does through the pipe section. Nice and consistent. That's exactly exactly what I want to see. He's got Cap and Miquatro ahead of him. It's going to be, hopefully, for Nixotica, a more conservative performance here on this opening map of the TMGLC event. I'm looking to see him get more and more P8 finishes as time goes on. He's looking pretty healthy as it stands right now.
Yeah, exactly. Meanwhile, Evan getting over energized for P3. Cap having a pretty shaky landing, teetering on the edge. Same thing for Nixotica, maybe a little bit less, but so far it's still Cap having the advantage over the player from RBG Esports. And as I pointed out, some of the championship contenders, especially the top two, are not exactly where they were expecting to be. Otak again tumbling down the order to P13. Mime down to 11, 3 seconds down on the top 8 that is needed for those 15 points. And it seems as though we had potentially another battle brewing between Miquatro and Solja, as Miquatro seems to make a breakaway there compared to Cap, and now Solja is going to be the next target for the Flying Fin. Moving into P5, but he actually falls off the pipe. As I said, that the Caster's Curse hits so hard, he's forced to respawn and is now down to P11. Mime and Fegli have benefited from that. They're the benefactors. They're also locked in their own battle for P9, and Miquatro with the excess of speed makes it a three-way fight, actually makes short work of both of them. I'll take that place, thank you very much. In the meantime, towards the front, it's going to be the pipe section there, and Wosal, the champion, the race leader up until this point, has made a mistake. He's forced to respawn and yields the lead to Default. He drops down to P5 even. Wosal, actually Evon taking the lead ahead of Default, so it's now a two-horse race for the lead, and the battle is very much on for those 25 points.
Default chasing very directly behind Avon. Oh, Avon not
Slow
the
exit.
best run through there, and bounces off of that jump as well. So that hands Default the lead only temporarily. Avon will be chasing him through this wall right section. They both need to line up very close there. Avon lining up for that pipe. Cut it just a little bit close. Default will lead coming into this first kind of most risky pipe section. Avon, how much will he risk to get up ahead? Conservative for both of them. The gap remains at just about 2/10 here. Evon's still chasing him, coming from behind. Default coming through this freewheeling section. It's such a painful area. You have to wait. It seems like years for your engine to kick back on. Oh, not the best run. Slipped out to the outside of that pipe, and Default is now awarded about a half-second gap and will confidently come home to take the opening map win here. Evon, not bad points, will still come away with 22 in P number 2 as the top 8 have already finished here, filtering now down through the bottom 8. Miquatro coming in P12. Very well done for some players and very poorly done for others. I must say, Mime and Otak, interestingly, not anywhere near the top 8. This is not the map that you expected either of these players to play. I'm very surprised at their lack of consistency here.
Yeah, indeed. And in the meantime, Wosal managed to snipe Energize for P3, so that's a few extra points for him in the bag, and a few extra points as well for Snow, who takes a new lap record on this final race on Vertigo with a 101.723, the only time that we have actually dipped below the 102s. We're going to be moving on to the second race of this step, map number 2, which is of course none other than Poolside by Kisla. The very first contribution of Kisla to the Grand League map pack and the introduction of both plastic and water, and especially water interactions. Wet wheels interacting with plastic, with tarmac, and with dirt. With dirt, the grip level is not that much affected. The grip, the reduction of the grip is actually negated pretty well by the dirt, but on asphalt, and especially on plastic, it's a completely different ball game. And the identity comprising of his snake section of U-turns, where you dip down below and get your wheels wet, it is going to be very important to actually manage your exit out here. Now, there is an alternative strategy when it comes to actually approaching the entrance of the very first U-turn, which is basically trying to carry as much speed and go for a late neo slide around the corner to try and get as much exit speed, try to take the higher line while avoiding clipping the pole on the outside. I wonder how many people are going to be trying to pull that off. We've seen a few people trying to make it. It's gonna be a bit hard to pull off that. If you're able to carry the momentum through, though, it could be a very big payoff.
It is so very risky. I'm interested to see who takes that option to go for it, because if they can get it consistently, you know, easier said than done, it could lead to some very big time leads here, which on a map like Poolside is very, very crucial. I will say, something that I haven't seen a lot of people touching on is that there are 3 different ways to take this this turn that we just saw Razi coming through a few seconds ago. You can kind of land on the outside of the pool and just kind of safe it going into that 180 turn, just landing dead straight so that you don't lose any traction. You can also throw yourself into it and bank on your tires gaining grip by the time you actually need to make that turn. Or we've seen that there's a water bounce technique as well, where they ignore that left side plastic edge completely, bounce off of the water to save just a little bit of time. But the trade-off there is that they have a ton more speed, which with wet tires and the fact that you are guaranteed to be landing in the slide is always way more difficult to control. So we'll see which one they decide to go with here.
Yeah, in the meantime, let's get underway right here. The race has started. Whole shot for Quattro with a 7.710 at the first checkpoint in favor of the Flying Finn. So far, no big mistakes at the start, just maybe a bit of a sluggish start from Mosal, who's 2/10 down from the top 8. He's currently, well, around half a second down compared to first. It's still first through last regroup within just a second, so still no big mistakes through the first third section, managing to make it through nice and easy. Some people will try to go for the outside line of the corner, trying to carry a bit more exit speed. Some others will just try to go conservative here and go for the classic out-mid out-strat, trying to especially try to make a smooth transition out of the banking as possible, out of the edge of the dirt track as possible, especially with the transition from dirt to flat. Now moving on to the second water bounce, we see someone clipping. That was a pretty huge topic. Exotica falling by the wayside, hitting the wall on the outside. Snow managing to make it through. Evon, Razi, and Mime, 1, 2, 3. It was Default. The winner of the last race has made a big mistake. Evon going for the outside line. Same thing it seems like as though for Otak. We see Razi and Mime right there in P3 and P4, and Evon has pulled a clear lead of around 2/10 of a second at the end of lap number 1, 3/10 even at the end of lap 1, 1:10.545. The early benchmark for fastest lap as we headed to lap number 2.
Evon coasting out to a 4/10 of a lead here. Mime, Razi, and Otak in hot pursuit. Hydra and Solja fighting here. What is that? P5, P6. Not a lot of gaps that have broken out there. Razi and Mime going for that outer line. They carry a lovely amount of momentum and are using that to good effect, trying to catch up to Evon here in the lead. So close there. Everybody taking that triangle line through the checkpoint areas as well. I've always, in my practice, it has never really led to that much of a gain, but I guess at this level of competition, Geek, it's all about the tiny amounts that can add up over the course of 6 laps to get you the overall advantage. And if it comes down to taking the triangle line through a checkpoint as opposed to just taking it dead straight, then I guess that's what these players are going to do.
Yeah, path of least resistance. In the meantime, Otak trying to make some work here. Oh, a bit of a switch up, but it's not enough. Maya managing to retake P2 ahead of Razi and Otak, who tried to go with a much more speed into the identity. Did not exactly work out. Evon again improving the fastest lap with a 1:08.370 in favor of the Polish driver. His compatriot Mime is currently battling for second place with Razi. Otak is still right there. It's very much a hot fight for the top 2, but there is also potentially a fight brewing for the top 8 as Evon, the leader, has made a huge mistake before even the checkpoints. He messed up the jump and he's going to be down to P15. Now Mime has inherited the lead and now we have a pretty close fight for the lead in the form of Mime, Razi, and Otak within 2/10.
So very close. Evon will take a lot of time to make up for that. I don't know if it's going to happen, so maybe time to just cut his losses. A bad landing there too. Okay, so we're going to focus back up front. Otak, Razi, and Mime. It has become about these 3 players up here in the lead. Everybody else in a completely different league as far as they're concerned. Everybody taking that drift line except for Mime, who controlled that very well. Oh no, the huge bunk there. He's going to lose a ton of time as Razi and Otak now just break out on their own. Lovely lines through there, through the pool section. Everybody maintaining grip for now. Razi and Otak tiptoeing their way through the pool. Very, very good. The caution there paying off brilliantly. Unfortunately, that 3-horse race has turned into a 2-horse race, but hey, Razi and Otak will definitely take that any day of the week.
Yeah, that was a bit of an unfortunate stoppage there from Mime, who managed to get it through the smooth steering strat, managing to be careful with his inputs, managing to carry as much speed as he could, but unfortunately that lineup through the chicane did not work out and did not at all pay off. He is down to P9. He's still in contention for finishing in the top 8 though, so yeah, there could still be a little bit of damage limitation here coming from Mime, especially now that he might have learned his lesson there on lap number 4, and now he's bearing down on Exotica. And up ahead, there's still a pretty good fight for P4 with Snow just ahead of Hydra and Revolution, who's having a good start to this race so far, and Warsaw currently sitting in P7, Link in P3 having a bit of a buffer compared to the battle for 4th place, but also a bit of a ways away from Otak and Razi, who are battling for the lead, and Razi seems to have had less speed from the exit of the checkpoint before the identity, and so gives the lead to Otak. Otak will pull the gap to around half a second, even more, 7/10 of a second at the entry to lap number 5. Razi, unfortunately, that mistake has cost him big time, and now Otak could be having very much a clear road and try to pull what I like to call a Lewis Hamilton, trying to go as fast as he can, trying to pull the gap and never look back.
Get in there, Lewis. It's hammer time. Let's go. Razi, time to dig deep. Unfortunately for him, Otak is quite a fast player and has built out over a second gap. No DRS for Razi at this point. Link, Snow, Hydra all the way back there in P3. It feels so weird to say that all the way back to P3, but it's a 2-second gap to Otak, who has been nigh on perfect here throughout this entire map as we get to the penultimate lap, or halfway through rather, the penultimate lap of Poolside. Everybody being nice and conservative here. Link is the person who's taking that safe line, no drifting through there, making sure those tires are nice and dry, maintaining grip. Triangle line through here, and a conservative one through the pool. So the top 3, honestly, barring any drastic mistakes, I feel like may be set, and they can, if depending on how heads up of a player they are, they will probably be looking at what the gaps are. I see Snow tumbling down the leaderboard. Must have been a mistake in the pool section. Unfortunate, drops out of those heavy points-paying positions, finds himself all the way down to P11 now.
Yeah, indeed, that was maybe due to a scruffy exit of the identity there from Snow, dropping on the P11. That will be benefiting his teammate Dofal, moving up to P10, and he sees right ahead that the top 8 is right there. There's potentially 15 points up for grabs, and still a little bit of a damage limitation. He could still try to retain the lead of the step, because there are not any big point scorers from the first race in the top 8 at the moment. The only ones are Hydra, Wosile, and Nixotica, of course, and those are the only ones that are of any big worry of that could be worrying Dofal of losing the lead of the step at this stage at any point. In the meantime, in the lead, Otak has got a really solid buffer. It's very much a battle for the top 8 brewing, though. Dofal losing a lot of speed compared to Miquatro and Mime. It's a battle between these two for the final point placings. In the meantime, let's check in on the leader. It's still looking pretty good for Otak. Razi 1.3 seconds behind. He will take the win ahead of Razi. Link in P3 actually losing the place to Hydra in the identity. Link P4. Revel having made a big mistake. He finishes still in the top 8. Wosile and Exotica 5th and 6th, Revo 7th, Miquatro in P8, Dofal just outside in P9, Mine 10th, Snow 11th, Cap in P12, Soldier, Evon, and Fegli 13th, 14th, and 15th, and Energize finishing in last position. Or actually
so
just
far,
BMing.
I don't want to jinx it. But Nixotica and Revo have both had relatively good runs so far. I know we're barely halfway through this step, but I mean, look at that. Nixotica finds himself all the way up in P3 right now. It still is early days, 34 points, but I think things are looking good for Nixotica. Revo has had let's not sugarcoat it, a pretty rough time through the TMGLC so far. So I'm happy to see this resurgence on Poolside. Hopefully he can use that momentum that he just gained from this map as we go into one of my most hated maps, but it is what it is. The competitors will like it more than I do, as I am absolutely positive it is going to be Launchpad.
Launchpad by Ubisoft Nadeo, the 3rd Ubisoft Nadeo map, I think I'm right in saying that, played this season. The ice, of course, being one of the key sections, a bit of an awkward approach to that. That's also conditioned by the slow drift that comes behind it. If you mess up your lineup, you might be running at the risk of losing a lot of speed. And of course, that crazy section with the reactor boost through the 2 ring CPs, and yeah, managing your landing is going to be pretty important here, but also managing to make it through unscathed is the main thing that is going to be on everyone's mind, because it's very easy to land a little bit low and unfortunately clip either one of the sides or the bottom of the ring CP, and that could basically just end your race at this point.
I'm looking to see which one of these players is going to be the most consistent, because the identity on this track is one of the most terrifying beasts that anyone has ever come up with, and nice to know that the developers of the game are actually the ones that are capable of coming up with such a monstrosity. You have to use a reactor boost, fly through multiple ring checkpoints, and turn almost a full 90 degrees to land in that reset ring and line up perfectly for that next run through the lap. Absolutely terrifying. I personally was never able to nail it. Geek, I'm curious, just as a personal question, what are your thoughts specifically on Launchpad? Were you ever able to get like a half decent time on this one?
No, I was never able to really clear the identity cleanly as well. Getting the identity clean is very much a question of being able to manage the throttle inputs as carefully as you can, and also try to time the transition from pointing your car left to pointing your car right, because that is of course the transition that is very important for the second part with the second ring CP, and then managing to make it through to the other reactor ring to actually cushion the landing, cushion the fall down to the plastic part back across the start line. We're underway with race 3 here on step 6. Otak with the best start so far, although he's right there with Evan. We still see a plenty good pack, no big mistakes so far. A bit of a helicopter view here for you guys at home. A little bit of a nice part. Dofal taking a bit of a penalty dirt, a bit of a snow there from Energize. Best exit so far. It seems as though snow taking a bit of the snow on the way out, pun intended. And yeah, losing a bit of speed as a result of that. Mime with that great reactor boost part and that great exit moves now into contention with his fellow countryman for the lead. And now we're moving on to Otak in P3. Still very much a close race. Evan down to P4. And now we're seeing two Frenchmen in Otak and still battling against Mime for the lead right now as we're moving on to the identity for the first time.
Oh, it's terrifying. Let's see who lines it up properly. Mime, Otak, Snow, and Evan. No,
oh,
Otak,
Snow.
a huge bonk off of that ring CP. Will have to respawn all the way down in P16. I do fear his day will be over. We'll scoot a little bit ahead. We won't broadcast the pain that is Otak's run through the identity. Such a shame to have that happen so early in the run as well. So just some time to make up here. We'll probably check back in with Otak at a later time. Mime, Evan, Wozile, and look at this, Fegley fighting all the way up here. A person near and dear to my heart, Rocket League player as well from the US, so got a little bit of personal stake in this player as well. Has also shared with Revo in having a relatively difficult time throughout this competition, but I like seeing him up this high. Just that I would say the pace probably just isn't quite there compared to most of the other players in the competition, but nice to see him this high up. I'm hoping that his consistency is able to find him a little bit here as we see him hanging out in P4 as we get to the identity for a second time.
Yes, and everybody makes it through clear. A bit high of a crossing there for Wosile. Ooh, a bit of a scarfy landing for Fegley. He will lose a lot of positions with that. Not able to actually make it through the other reactor ring, and he drops down to P12 due to that landing, but that was a good save. All things considered, that is a pretty good save. It could have gone oh so much worse, and don't tell me how I know. Don't ask me how I know, because yeah, that's pretty painful. In any case, Mime's still leading by around half a second compared to Evan, and the gaps are very much starting to come alive. And yeah, we were briefly talking about Otak's fail at the very first crossing of the identity. Failing as you cross a ring CP is the worst thing, because the double respawn sets you at the next static respawn that is on the ground. So the respawn is extremely punishing here if you're forced to double tap, and that's definitely something you want to avoid. That's why you actually want to try and actually cross the identity without any fuss and without any heart attack potentially situations. In the meantime, battling for P3, we see Energize and Soldier. Soldier not having had the best start of the season. Energize, of course, winning step 4, having won a really juicy multiplier around here on Launchpad. Mime still leading by quite a ways away from Evan, 6/10 ahead of his fellow compatriot. Soldier third and Energize in P4, and now battle for P8. Holy crap, look at this. Dofalt, Nixotica, and Rozzy battling with each other. Nixotica currently holding in P7, but for how long will he be able to take it?
Nixotica hanging out in front of Rozzy, but only temporarily. Whoa, Dofalt, way too much speed and will slide up. Hugely painful respawn. That will send him all the way back in P14. I fear Dofalt's day is done as well. We will catch back up now. Nixotica in P7 has gained well, okay, the second I say he's gained a confident gap, Rozzy is now just ahead of him, edging him out for that 7th spot. Just ahead, we've got Wosile, Energize Hydra, and Soldier. Nice little ducks in a row here, fighting for, what is that? That winds up being P3, I guess. Yeah, Soldier all the way up here, trying to navigate this very tricky area. You get a slight lift on the back of the car, and you need to make sure you utilize that effectively to get the drift. Hydra very, very high, but will land effectively. Starting the penultimate lap here on Launchpad. Let's see who takes it.
And Mime having been reeled in slowly but surely by Evon. The gap has been shrunk down to around 0.3 of a second, at least at the first checkpoint. Now, through that particular grass section and that wall ride, Mime was able to get the gap back up slowly but surely now to around half a second. Now moving on to the ice, let's see who actually gets the better one. We're currently following with Evon. Nobody taking the penalty dirt on the way in. Mime barely avoiding the snow, I'm assuming, from this particular camera angle. Both managing to stay onto the curb. Who's going to get the best exit and lose the least amount of speed? No, Evon touches the pillar of the CP, forced to double respawn. Thankfully, he had enough of a gap to not lose too much position, but he's still going to be dropping another P5, and Soulja gets promoted up to second place, and the battle for second place now is very much a close one, with Soulja, Wosile, and Hydra. Hydra a little bit further behind than he would like to be, but so far, it could very well be a big, good boost for the chances of the Belgian from Numalops to actually get a good step this season and good baseline score. In the meantime, Mime has got a clear cushion ahead of him, 3.5 seconds between him and P2. Woolside with a better landing though at the exit of the launch pad section. The reactor section moves up into second place and goes for the high line at the entry, trying to carry as much speed as he can. Look at this, he's currently scooting through the grass part before the reactor part. He's losing a lot of speed as he tries to scrub it off to keep it on the road, but it's very much paying off here to move up into P2.
Yeah, that high line has been something that my friends and I were questioning the effectiveness of, because, yeah, it gives you a temporary speed boost, but the way that the camber is set up with that cake section in the grass, you have to bleed off so much of it just to effectively make the turn. Wosal, a bad landing there, allows a huge gain of time for Soulja just to catch up. Barely 2/10 between them now. Mime sailing off into the distance. It's not even a competition at this point. It's pretty much done as long as he can get a clean run through the identity. Wosile hanging on to P2 ahead of Soulja. Nice drift section here. It is closing just a little bit. Mime should and will get a clean identity to win this third map here. Wosile! No! It's sniped at the line. Soulja will come in at the very last second to take it away. Wosile, in fact, falling all the way down to P4. Such pain there.
Yeah, unfortunately, what could have been 22 points drops down to 19 after a really bad landing. Kind of like in the same way that we saw Exotica landing there. The landing, he did not get what we call the zoop at the line. Unfortunately, he did not manage to get the glide along. That results in a bit of a better speed at the line. But yeah, unfortunately for him, that resulted in him to drop it down to second to P4. And Soulja, we'll take those 22 points gladly. Thank you very much. Evon with a 103.492, the fastest up of the race. A 626 at the end of those 6 snipers for Mime, which is apparently a pretty good time. I think we have to check the timing sheets on that one. But yeah, apparently, according to Mutta, who's currently in the chat, it looks to be a pretty good time.
Yeah, according to Phoebe, who's also in the chat, faster than the winning time in TMGL last week. So terrifyingly competitive. That's absolutely ridiculous. It is time for my favorite map. Let's go, GGeek. It is time for Bolt Holes. The first time that we have seen this in the 6-lap format. I am super excited. This identity is fascinating. It just forces you to clench every cheek you have on your body every single time the car flies through those holes. The players get so close. They have to throw it from left to right, right to left in order to keep as much speed as possible flying through the holes while not clipping on all 4 sides of the car. It is terrifying, but it is a blast when you get it right. I love this map.
A very rewarding map indeed. And yeah, that is Rocket's very first contribution to a Grand League map pack. And I gotta say, he's did a very, very good job with this map. Very enjoyable, very approachable, but of course, as we said a little bit earlier in the broadcast, the identity is definitely what's going to be separating the men from the boys. You can't allow to have too much variance in the way you approach that first jump into the first hole. If you mess up your lineup by a couple pixels, if you steer a bit too early, or if you go in a bit too quickly, you might risk clipping one of the edges of the first hole that you actually go through. This happened plenty of times for a couple players, especially Evon in a multiplier round. He managed to get away with it both times. They actually did it in the multiplier round. That was a very scary moment. But even worse, if you mess up your lineup, you run the risk of completely losing speed, which will, well, send you back a couple places, or even more painful than that, force you to, full stop PQ and force you to respawn, and that would be completely a run ender, considering that they have to do this identity for 6 laps. They don't have the luxury of being able to fully send it for 2 laps. They have to actually send it for 6 laps, knowing that there might be some other people that might be faster than them at the identity, and knowing that one single misalignment, one single mistake can completely wreck your opportunity to score some big points here on this final 6-lapper that is currently underway. Warsaw leading the step by 57 points, 55 for Hydra. Whole shot for Hydra with a 6.868 at the end of the first checkpoint. As they're past through the first plastic part, we're going to follow along with Fegli.
Fegli hanging out in P5 so far, doing relatively well. This battle for, it looks like 6th or 7th at this point. Everybody getting through this section nice and clean. Mime actually uncharacteristically all the way back, so we'll see how that time lines up as things go on. The Neo slide through this near section. I will say, Geek, something that fascinated me the first time I saw the map presentation video. I started playing this map before I had seen that video, and I thought the move, as we see a bonk there from somebody falling all the way down, I believe that wasn't Exotica.
It is.
I thought the line was to go around the outside of that circle, and then I see the presentation video, they're Neo sliding that inside line, and I was like, what? Are you kidding me? I thought I had this map completely figured out. So that was a nice eye-opening moment, but hey, everybody is flying through the way that they are meant to, and save for a few bad examples, Fegli as well, who just clips on the inside. We are finally getting to the first run of this identity. People smacking that first bolt hole already. Miquatro falling all the way down. These bolt holes take absolutely no prisoners.
Yeah, Miquatro being the unhappy victim there of that very first jump. In the meantime, it's Otak who takes the lead into lap number 2 with a 122.545. Evan and Hydra with Snow second, third, and fourth. Wosal in P5, Link in P6, battling with Wosal at the moment. We also see Mime in P7, Soldier in P8 battling with Rozzy. So aside from the Exotica, Revolution, and Miquatro, it's still looking a pretty close battle. Fegli a little bit further behind than he would like to be. Cat currently sitting at P12, but from 1st to 11th, it's still looking relatively close. We can still get a bit of a visual cue of Otak. You can see the name tag there of Otak right there from the perspective of Dofal, as we had a mistake from Energize, who completely messed up his Neo slide there around the around the left-hander, sorry, beneath the hole with the water. And Fegli also having made a mistake, he's dropping down to 1 second. So now Mime is at the tail end of the leading group. Otak pulling a gap to around half a second.
It's a healthy gap, to be sure. Snow Hydra and Wosal, the 3 musketeers there at the top of this kind of leading pack, save for Otak, of course, in the lead. Second time we get to the identity. Who will make it through? Do we see one bonk? Soldier knocks out. Evan having to respawn as well. Not the worst. Soldier yet again bonking. I feel like the time is over at this point. Everybody else sailing through, doing a relatively good job, making it through unscathed. Man, it is always such a nail biter when you fly through there, because you're trying to maintain as much speed as possible, but you need to do everything possible at the same time to be absolute dead straight through that hole, because one slight deviation, and I mean, you witness what the result is right there. It's multiple respawns and just tumbling down the order, resulting in a huge loss of points.
Indeed, indeed. In the meantime, Otak still very much continuing his march up front, managing to widen the gap to 7/10 before the reactor boost parts, and we can see the gaps widening quite considerably as we see those mistakes creep in. Miquatro moving up to P9, but he's currently 2 seconds down on the top 8 for those juicy points. Currently safeguarded by Exotica, 2.82 seconds down on the leaders. Having a bit of a lonely race at the moment, but we might expect that to actually, there is of course a bit of a chance that there might be some players falling. It's not really a stretch to consider that there may be someone in the top 7 that completely messes up his lineup at the first jump. Yeah. We're gonna have to wait and see. Otak having a clear run, almost a second ahead of Hydra. Let's actually see, are there any bonks? No, they make it through cleanly. Nice. Through the first hole, nicely done. Onto the second one, nobody clipping the bottom side. Onto the third one, it's still looking like a clear lead for Otak, who's still very much in control. 1 second ahead of the battle for second between Hydra, Mime, and Dofalt. Currently, Mime having pulled a bit of a gap compared to both Hydra and Dofalt. Snow in P5, Wosal down to P7. And yeah, still Exotica hovering on P8, still currently clinging on.
A little bit of time to make up, and at this point, all Exotica needs to do is maintain that consistency and hope that someone ahead of him does not, which at this level of competition, you know, easier said than done, but he can dream. A man can dream. Leave him alone. Oh, little bit of a bonk there. Who was that falling back? I couldn't quite see who that was, but I don't think it was super drastic there. It was Snow, in fact, so a tiny bit of a gap has fallen now all the way down behind Razi, but still maintaining P7. So not, yeah, like I said, not a drastic mistake there. Everybody coming through cleanly up to this wall right section. Like I said before, nice little ducks in a row. So we get to the grass portion of this now. Tight little drift here. Make sure to avoid that circle on the right side. Fourth run through. Oh God, see, it makes me hold my breath as you see it happening, because everybody's getting so close and you're praying for nothing to go wrong. And luckily everybody in that top 7, Nixotica as well, top 8, gets through it nice and cleanly. Penultimate lap here on both holes as we enter the plastic.
Yeah, it's very much one of those identities where even when you're a spectator, your butthole is clanked. That's how nerve-wracking it is, not just to play this, but also to watch it.
But okay.
Yeah, but no, but I feel like it's still okay to say that. But anyway, but yeah, Otak still very much in control of this race, managing the gap, not really seeking to extend as much as he could possibly do. He's currently hovering a gap of around 6 to 7 tenths of a second compared to Mime. Now Mime also trying to manage a bit of a race of his own, trying to catch up to Otak while also trying to keep Hydra at bay, currently sitting in P3, having a good consistent run so far. 55 points for him, is second in the points this step, just behind Wosile, who is currently sitting in P5, right behind Default. So yeah, there's still plenty of points to be contended with. Snow getting reeled in slowly but surely by Nixotica as well, so there may be an extra point up for grabs here for Nick, as if he's able to actually get past the Frenchman from BS Plus competition, as we're moving on to the identity for the penultimate time here in this 6-lap race. Otak and Snow. Otak, the leader, has fallen off! He clipped the top! Mime inherits the lead, Hydra half a second behind, Otak down to P8. Now it could be very much a butt clench here for Otak, as Mi Quattro is now within half a second of sending him down to the depths of the bottom 8 and denying him 10 valuable points. Hydra battling with Mime, taking the lead away from the Polish driver from Exalti Toro as well. It's all kicking off.
Hydra, one of the most consistent players we've seen this entire competition, and it may just pay off Otak the unfortunate error, but Hydra will take that all day long. And I will say as well, excellent points for Snow, the only player in this step right now still on single digits, finds himself in P6, so that will be a healthy points haul as long as he can maintain it. Small clip there on the inside by Hydra allows Mime just to take the lead. Hydra will fall back into this fight with P2. I believe that's Default he's fighting with. Very, very close battle up at the front. Man, that Otak mistake opened things wide up here. Getting through the grass drift turn now, not a super troubling area of the map, so things should stay similar for the time being. Geek, we're coming up to the final identity, and I can barely watch.
Yeah, there was also a big mistake that we saw on stream with Wosile clipping the inside before the reactor boost. He's now within 3 tenths of being sent down to the bottom 8. First jump through the holes. The top 3 make it through clean. Mime has a 2/10 advantage over Hydra. It should be good. Second jump onto the third jump. Hydra with more speed. He's gonna try to put it on the line, but it's not enough. Mime wins the race in a 7:59.334. Hydra second, Default third. Snow, Razi, Nixonica, Otak, and Mi Quattro, thanks to a late mistake from Wosile, moves up into P8. Link 9th, Ev on 10th, Wosile 11th, Cap in P12, Fegley P13, P14 for Energizer will be able to rally the finish line. He will be taking the safe way through. The Revolution in P15, I don't think he will be able to actually cross, because there is a 30-second cutoff time when the top 8 crosses the line, and Solja, he's well beyond that cutoff, so there's not going to be any points scored for the Belgian. But yeah, as a result of that, it's going to be the net step lead with 78 points for Hydra, it seems like. Yes, it is, 77 even. Miscalculation on my part. But Mime and Wosile, 61 and 60 points in P2 and P3. And now we're moving on to the 5th and final map. The multiplier rounds are about to be played, ladies and gentlemen, on none other than Grasshopper by Kisla, your brand new map for this week.
This is a tricky map, and like I said, for anybody who missed the intro, I didn't give this map enough credit when I started playing it. The first screwy part that I had trouble with was that drop down into that diagonal red plastic section. I couldn't quite figure out how to get it, but it's all about the time that you cut down left across that section to find contact with the wheels again. The identity on this track, it's those springboards that throw you up across the chasm between all those sections of grass. And the worst part about it is that when I believe, like I said, I was tuning into Mudda's stream, who, hi Mudda, welcome, I saw him in chat before. a bug slide. You need to land in a bug slide to effectively get it nice and consistently, but landing in a bug slide is no easy task. You need to make sure that you're landing relatively flat. I would say there is a little bit of wiggle room to come down with the back wheels first, and the way that the springboards kind of land you that way, it does happen more often than not, but man, it is a very, very fine line, and I have a newfound respect for this map. I'm super excited to view how these players treat this two lapper here as we get into the multiplier stage.
Yeah, we're gonna get, of course, a gander at the identity. You can see everyone performing the bug slide, and you can see getting the lineup can be a bit difficult to actually judge. You need to actually release the brake at the exact time that you actually want in order to be able to get it through to the second platform. It's very easy to aim too far left or too far right. Too far left and you land on the penalty dirt, too far right and you head into the wall. And also it's very important to be able to flick the car back towards the right hand side so that and then let the momentum of the bumper actually do the rest of the rotation for you. Get it pointed in the right direction as you land on the second platform so that you're able to rally the other side of the map and then across the finish line. Anyways, we're about to get started right now with the first of 4 level 2 rounds. The winners of the next 4 rounds are about to get a ×2 multiplier, meaning they will effectively double their score, and we're underway.
Let's go. Let's see how these players decide to play this. A reminder to everybody, Nixotica, on a healthy amount of points, has yet to earn a multiplier throughout this entire competition, and time is running out. He's got a healthy haul of points right now, 53. You wonder if he's just gonna full send it and try to get one of those 2Xs right ahead, or like ahead of time right now, just to get it over and done with, or maybe, you know, we'll see how the consistency shakes out as time goes on. We've heard that you know, there are theories that maybe there are players that DNF the first round to see if there are any slightly different lines taken here. I don't know if that's necessarily going to be the case here on Grasshopper. It seems like a relatively straightforward map in terms of the way that it's meant to be driven, but hey, you never know. With competition this tight, there is always something to be learned from your fellow competitors.
Yeah, so we already saw a couple of mistakes. Some people not really getting the lineup at the bumper. Some people actually bunking a little bit earlier during the plastic part even. And also on the first drop down before the plastic part, we saw a few people actually retire in the form of Otak and Revolution. Wosal, Razi are also pretty far down. We are going to see some of the players that are a bit more consistent with their pace, potentially just deleting the next few rounds, because players are allowed to sit out a few rounds and actually retire, trying to go for bigger multipliers, but so they can essentially try to go for the rounds 5 through 8 victories. But of course, with the kind of format that we have, and with the multiplier being so important, it's very much a risky strategy to do. If you're feeling very confident in your pace, why not? Go for it. But I'm assuming that for some of those players such as Hydra, Mi4, and Exotica and stuff like that that are having a pretty decent haul of points, they're gonna go for the the line and the 2-time multiplier. They are given the opportunity through the first bumper, second bumper, third bumper. It's currently Hydra leading ahead of Wosile and Mi4. Hydra going a bit wide. Wosile potentially to the line. It's going to be Hydra holding on to take the win and thus end the step on 154 points at the end.
A healthy points haul, and I don't blame Hydra for taking it this early. You know, a lot of people feel like it may be easier just to kind of decide that it's worth waiting, but at this point, I feel like, Geek, that the approach should be a bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush. You've got the points, you have the ability to get them, just get them, bag them, you know, end your day early, go home satisfied that you were able to get a win in the multiplier stage, and come at it next week with a renewed amount of vigor. I think it's very, very important that that people do take that approach. We see a couple mistakes already super early in the second run, but they are from higher points total players, so I don't think they'll be too worried about it.
Yeah, I'm thinking those are going to be more aiming towards the bigger multipliers. They might be starting really taking it seriously at 3x. They might not really be feeling it, or might feeling like they are really in danger and might just have to go for 2x, or maybe if they really want to get a big step and try to secure those points, then as I said, they will go for the 2x multiplier, and getting that multiplier unlocks so much more of mental, release so much of the mental pressure from not even being able to get one in the first place. Once you get the multiplier, it kind of releases the shackles a little bit, and you're able to actually approach the next steps with a bit more of a serene state of mind, knowing that you're potentially able to get those multiplier rounds and get those bigger points on the board. In the meantime, Evon has completed lap number 1 in the lead. Otak right there in 3rd position with Solia right there in between them.
Otak hanging out in a comfortable P3, but wonder if he is in a position to go for one of these 2 times multipliers. Really, the only 3 players that are in the conversation right now are Evon, Solja, and Otak, because Link all the way back is over, what is that, a 1.5-second gap now at this point to Otak. So very much out of contention unless all 3 of these lead players just decide miraculously to DNF right at the finish, which you can never count out. It's always a possibility, but we'll see how they get through the identity. Evon, followed by Solja, landing very, very cleanly. Otak will do the same. Huge bonk by Evon, but I don't think he'll be too concerned about it because he had the consistency through here. Otak will throw this one away. It will go the way of Solja, picking up that second 2 times multiplier. Let's do some quick math. That is 82 points. Healthy points hole for Solja.
84. You were a little bit off.
84. 84? See? Oh, never put me under pressure like that.
Okay, okay, I am actually relieved that I'm not the only smooth brain under pressure, so...
Oh, dude, I'm terrible.
That gets that out of the way. That's really nice. Yeah, we saw that from the perspective of Otak. Otak deciding to actually play the Giga Chad and deciding to actually just stop it just before the line, or just steer in the right wall and completely throw this one away, and potentially going for those bigger 2x or 3x. He's one of the more like spectacular players, one of the more showman, with a bit more for showmanship, going for those bigger multipliers. Anyways, we're already underway with the 3rd round here on Grasshopper, and we see a few mistakes by a few people. Revolution has retired, Snow has retired, Capper's right there, half a second down on the leader. And so far, we had a bit of a slowdown. I think it was Cap. Yeah, it was Cap at the exit of the dirt. That is completely out of contention. In the meantime, it's me, Quattro, Mime, Link, and Evon in the top 4.
Very, very close fight as we get about halfway through the second. Oh, bonk there off of the post. So that removes, I think that was Mime out of contention. Quattro, whoa, very long drift. Exotica will drift a little bit wide off of those bumpers. Who is this in the lead now? It is Link and Wosile. As we get the 2nd lap underway, Default very, very close behind, as is Evon. Relatively close competition here, as the players have gotten used to this 2-lap format. Bonk there on the outside by Evon. They've gotten more comfortable, and the gaps you have seen have shrunk over time, Geek. And I think that only means more exciting stuff as Razi makes a mistake there through that partial drifting section. I think that only means better things in terms of how close the competition is going to be as we get to those bigger and bigger multiplier stages.
Yeah, so far we only have like a few people left within a second of each other. Right now it's Wosile, Link, Default, and Otak, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Wosile leading the proceedings. But I'm kind of wondering, is he going to be taking the straight route to 120 points, or is he going to try to go for at least 180 with the 60 points that he scored in the first 4 races? We're going to have to wait and see. First box slide there with Link. Much more speed for the ex-Crazy Esport player, but he does not land right. And Wosel gets taken the lead, but is he going to be retiring? No, he's going to take to the flag and score 120 points at the end with a 205.402 at the end of that 2-lapper, a 1:410, your new fastest lap.
I can do this one. Ready? 120. Let's see.
Yeah.
Come on, 120. Yay, I did it. That was less pressure. It's a nice... exactly. It's easy. Nice round numbers are significantly easier.
Like multiples of 5 and multiples of 10, we can do that. Easy. The rest, forget about it. Completely forget about it. Anyways, we're on to the final level 2 round. That is very important to actually get these multipliers, because afterwards we're going to be seeing some of the bigger boys in the Challenger League trying to actually get those bigger, juicier multipliers, and so the competition is going to get only fiercer. So that's going to be the cue for some of those people that have got a solid haul of points right now that might not really be confident in their pace to actually battle with some of the top championship contenders to actually get that finish.
Evon, nice, comfortable lead. Well, maybe not comfortable, but definitely confident, as McQuattro and Mime are just absolutely neck and neck here for P2. We'll see how things shake up as we get to the first identity with the bumpers. Everybody nice and clean through there. Good lines, good lines. MiQuattro, I've seen MiQuattro do this a couple times. He goes significantly wider on that first bumper section, and I guess maybe he makes it work for himself, but man, it's a little bit nerve-wracking to look at because everybody else is taking a significantly tighter line, which looks safer. Maybe MiQuattro is just banking on the bug slide, giving him like a little bit of an extra speed boost. I don't know. Whatever it is, it's working for him, so far be it for me to criticize. He's currently hanging out there in a comfortable P5, P6 here, battle with Energize. Things are only looking up, but hey, up at the top now, we're not talking about people in P5, P6, we're talking about people in P1. Evon with a 3/10 lead, Mime racing to catch up as we get to, what is this, the second to last. No, it is the last two-time spot,
yeah,
as we inch closer and closer to the identity.
It is indeed the last level 2 multiplier. Otak reeling Mime back in just before the identity. Evon clipping the edge. Mime taking the lead, as is Otak. Now, I'm guessing that given how we've seen some those two players play the rounds before, they might be retiring at the end of the round. We're going to have to wait and see what Mime and Otak are going to be thinking. We're going to follow the perspective of Snow. Snow decides to throw it. Mime throws it, and there's going to be lots of DNFs, and in the end, it's going to be Cap. So the top 4 looking a lot more confident in their pace to actually go for the bigger ×3, ×4, ×5, and Cap at the end will be the beneficiary of that with 54 points at the end of that round.
That was weird. That's the first time I've ever seen it. Just the board progressively filling up with DNFs on the left side. I was like, P1, no, 2, 3, 4, no, no, no. And then Cap finally comes through. So well done. We get to the big point spots now. This is the first 3-time multiplier of this stage, and at this point, Geek, to me, the move here is absolutely make it happen. I don't think anybody should be in the position at this point where they're planning to DNF and they're in the lead. At this point, the points haul is too big. It's too tempting to be able to let slip through your fingers. If I'm in the lead at the end of 2 laps, I'm absolutely grabbing this one. Evon, Mime, and Link are going to be the top 3 contenders as of right now.
Yeah, indeed. And I would just finish that with the words of a wise man: full focus, fast win. That's all you need to do. Full focus, fast win. That's all you need to do in those 2 lappers. And I'm guessing, I'm really willing to bet that everyone in this field is going to be giving it a red hot go. As unfortunately, Dolphal clipped the edge of the corner before the identity. Mime going off the side. Evon having dropped a lot of speed. He's not going to make it through. Otak emerging in the lead ahead of Energize with much more speed than MiQuattro, dropping down to P3. Around a second down. Well, around 7/10 down. I thought the gap was going to be bigger a bit visually. But yeah, Otak and Energize, a French 1-2 at the front in the French duel for the first level 3 multiplier at hand.
MiQuattro chasing the pairing of these players. Otak and Energize will be in for a decent points haul as long, well, not both of them, but whoever obviously crosses the finish line first. Oh, huge bonk there from Energize, so he will be out of contention. It really only comes down to MiQuattro as Otak is now cruising to a 3/4 of a second lead here. Otak can honestly afford to take this nice and easy. Safe the identity, safe all of these other sections, because there's no way that MiQuattro is going to be able to catch up. Although I will say has cut it down just barely to about 7/10. And as I say that, another 1/10.5 goes his way. MiQuattro coming in and will fail that one. Otak coming to the line completely unchallenged. Will he decide to DNF?
No.
He will take it indeed. Intelligent, in my opinion. Not even going to attempt the numbers game. I'm just going to let the game do it for me. But P1 for Otak, lovely amount of points there.
138 points, if my brain is correct. It should be popping up right now. Yep, 138 points, putting him in for the provisional second place at the end of the step. Now we're moving on to the second and only level 3 multiplier round left to run. After that, we're moving on to level 4 and level 5. So right now, as we stated that many times before, but the time is now for some of the bigger points haulers in the first 4 races to actually get that round done. Some of these, they might not really do much in the standings. I mean, Mime could try to retake the lead away from Otak if he's able to get a level 3 or level 4 multiplier, while some of the others that are further down in the field, this could mean a jump of a couple, even more than 4 positions at the end of a step, just by one good step compared to their competitors.
Clean run by everybody through the dirt, or everybody that has any amount of contention here at the very least. MiQuattro, confident lead. Mime chasing Evon and Snow right here, following up. So we come to the first. Oh no, that's a bonk there by Evon. Evon is out of contention. Will have to rely on the 4 or 5 times multiplier. That's somebody else dropping out. Oh,
Miquattro
out
Link!
as well, and all of a sudden, the lead is just gifted to Snow, only on 28 points, but honestly, for a 3x multiplier, Snow, who did not have the best step as of right now, this could be a wonderful points haul as long as he's able to keep it consistent. Nixotica in P2, but almost a second and a half back at this point. Snow could be cruising to a victory here as long as he maintains the consistency.
Never count Nixotica out, especially on this map where we've seen plenty of attrition so far in the rounds. As I like to say so often, anything can happen at Trackmania, and it usually does. It's a bit like Murphy's Law, but a little bit of our own version of Murphy's Law. If anything that can go wrong will go wrong at some point. And yeah, so far for Snow, it looks to be pretty okay. We're just going to have to wait for him to cross the identity. Now, is he going to be happy with his ×3 multiplier, or is he going to try to up the ante a little bit and try to go for level 4? Through the final bumper he goes, just a couple of corners before the crossing of the line. He takes to the flag and thus scores the multiplier for himself with a grand total of 84 points if my calculations are correct.
I'm going to wait for the computer to tell us, Snow. Honestly, this is more of a competition between you. Nice, good job. Geek, this is honestly more of a competition between you and me, just trying to get our mental math correct. So, good job. I think you're in the lead 2-1 at this point. All right, I'm rubbing my hands together with glee because this is the 4x multiplier. Anybody who needs to make something happen needs to make it happen now. Nixotica was able to finish P2, I will say, kind of, sort of on the back of some failures with some players that were ahead of him, but still, it shows that he's able to be in the mix when it matters. Evon and Link need to prove that it was a fluke, the couple mistakes that they made early on, and finish, because at this point, everybody is gunning for the victory. Nobody is going to be safing it towards the 5x. It is not worth it. Let's see how hard any of these players are willing to push. I'm all here for this competition. Yeah,
Evon currently sitting in the lead. Link in P2, Miquattro P3. That was a bit of a close line there by mine through the cruise control chicane. He manages to exit with the most speed. Let's actually check in on Miquattro right there, sitting in P5. Are there going to be any misalignments? Razi seemed to have had a bit of a rough time there. He manages to make it through, but he loses a bunch of positions to Fegli and Energize, who clips the edge of the wall as well, so he's going to be out of contention. Evon leading in front of Mime. Actually, Mime taking the lead away from Evon, sorry. It's going to be a nip and tuck between the two Polish players, with Link in P3 as an independent adjudicator of sorts, trying to potentially take advantage of another mistake here.
Very, very tight battle. Evon and Mime will be going at it for the rest of this map. I would like to stay on them. No, Mime clips the inside, and Evon gifted a huge lead here, almost a full second over Miquattro. Unfortunate for Mime, will have to rely on that 5x now. It's never something you want to do, but clearly he's got the skill to make it happen, so he will just kind of wipe the slate clean here and try to think about it. Miquattro now at this point just kind of needs to drive as cleanly as possible and hope for an Evon mistake, which at this point I wouldn't expect. You could see Evon safing it around the outside. Evon chasing, in fact, I believe that's Revolution about to get lapped. Miquattro will bonk Evon. Relatively clean run through here. I say that, Razi coming up with a ton of speed will not get there in time. So very close. Evon coming away 200 points. Lovely round number. I believe that's 2-2 between you and I.
Yeah, that's it. And ladies and gentlemen, it all comes down to this one final round. Level 5 is now up for grabs, and the round is underway. With Mime, he has the potential to finish the step with 305 points, which would be enabling him to take back the lead of the league standings if he manages to make it happen.
Razi hanging out behind everybody. Oh, man, bonk on the outside of the wall. It's just absolutely devastating this early. Didn't quite see who that was. It may have been Revo. We already saw him DNF, so that's probably the situation as we get about halfway through this first lap. Oh, just that very close, kind of touchy tech section. Miquattro and Mime fighting it out. Miquattro actually out to about a car length and a half of the gap here out in front. About a 1/10 and a half that winds up being. Drifting very carefully through this plastic section. Everybody coming through the cruise control. Very crucial to make sure you enter the cruise control at the latest point possible to to make sure you have the most speed gain possible, because the second you hit that, your speed is locked until you pass through that final checkpoint to kind of clear everything up. Mime out to a very clear lead, and Fegley, I will say something I've seen consistently throughout this competition, Fegley tends to show up in a huge way during the final multiplier round. I wonder if he'll be able to seal it off of Mime. We have about 80% of this lap to see.
Yeah, final lap of the step coming up right now. Mime having a half a second buffer compared to Fegley and Energizer, who came back up, but he completely missed the transition of the plastic, so he's down and retired with 38 points. Then it's a pretty, it's actually the gap of 2/10 between Fegley and Link. Fegley touches, it's going to be done for him with 21 points. Now Mime has got all the time in the world. He's got a gap of around 1.1 second compared to Link. Miquancho moving up to P3 after that early identity on lap 1 that cost him so much time as well. And Mime should be in for a treat. He just goes around the Safeway, around the outside of the poles. Moving on to the identity. First bumper onto the grass slide. Second bumper, perfectly executed. Third bumper,
nice.
And ladies and gentlemen, Mime takes his third step win of the season. His another level 5 multiplier in the books. 305 points at the end of the step. And if my calculations are correct, he will be taking the lead of the Grand League Challenger standings. There he is, 1,479 points, just one step after having left the top. He goes back to the top.
Absolutely lights out performance. Mime, well done. It came down to the very end there, so definitely not a comfortable victory, I will say, until I say comfortable in the grand scheme of things, because it needed to wait all the way until the 8th run of that 2-lapper here on Grasshopper, but made it happen. Man, what a run through here. I was hoping that this map would create a healthy bit of competition, and I am definitely not disappointed. As you said, Otak slipping down into P2, Evon climbing up, swapping spots with Hydra, so now Evon will be in P3 in the overall standings, but Mime absolutely standing tall. Mime and Otak head and shoulders above their competitors. They are feeling super confident as we get into the back half of this season.
Yeah, so quick score recap. So Mime taking the lead ahead of Otak, Evan moving up to P3 ahead of Hydra, Energize and Mostile still in P5 and P6, just 7 points apart. Then Miquancho in P7 and P8 for Rozzy, who's just 7 points ahead of Cap, who moved up to P9 at the expense of Link. 445 versus 436. Default in 11th, Soldier 12th, Snow 13th, and the rest haven't changed. Nixontica, Fegley, and Revo. Nixontica still within 100 points of potentially getting out of that bottom 3 zone, but now the chances are getting slimmer and slimmer. There's only 2 steps left. We're already 3/4 of the way down through the season. Only 2 steps to go. It's going to be starting to be very costly, those final few places, be it out of the relegation zone or into the playoff stage.
I will be watching so closely throughout the rest of this competition. I have never been invested in a solo effort racing series like I have right now, which reminds me, I have to go back and watch the F1. No spoilers in chat. I avoided that just to be able to check this out. But yeah, I am so hyper focused on this stuff. I'm all about it. And Geek, thank you very much for the opportunity. That was an absolute blast. I had a ton of fun.
It was an absolute blast casting with you. It may have been a little bit more laid back than some of the other casts, but I mean, I'm all for it, man. It's a very much a nice different change of pace, and being able to collaborate with other people from other horizons in esport, it's very much a very good blessing for me. Now, before we wrap this up, if you want to promote yourself on social media, what you're up to, the floor is yours.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. So pretty much anywhere at Leachy Live. That's Twitter, Instagram, Twitch as well for personal streams if you care about me swearing into a microphone very loudly whenever I'm playing Trackmania or Rocket League or what have you. Yeah, you can catch me over as well at twitch.tv/Minor League Esports. We are a Rocket League community that has been around almost 6 years in January. Over 2,000 members, 5 different levels of competition. And what we have done for Rocket League, we are hoping to do for Trackmania as well. So please be on the lookout for any TM developments from Minor League Esports. That's at Minor League Esports on Twitter as well. That is where you can check them out. That's where you can check me out. Thank you very much one more time, GGeek. It has been an absolute pleasure.
Well, thank you very much again, Leachy, for being alongside me. Now, before you go away, of course, if you want to keep up with whenever I go to cast or whenever I post updates about my Grand League gigs and other gigs, at TMGeek on Twitter, TMGeek on Twitch as well. Of course, don't leave the Grand League just yet. We have the top flight at 8 p.m. with Step 6, with the global cast, of course, being held by Wartroll on twitch.tv/Wartroll, and a lot of other POV streams in French, English, and German. I will be casting over on the McLaren Shadow channel, twitch.tv/McLaren Shadow for Kappa. If you want a resume of all of the POV streams available, trackmaniagrandleague.com/watch or !main event in the Twitch chat to actually get the links for both the schedule and the POV list. I'm going to be sending you over, as per usual, to the host with the most, Wartroll, who is going to be, of course, taking you through all the action of Step 6 of the top flight. Thank you very much again for tuning into Step 6 of the Trackmania Grand League Challengers. Thank you very much again to Leachy for coming up and actually casting and calling out the action with me. And yeah, I'll see you, of course, next week for Step 7 of the Challenger, and I'll see you as early as Wednesday next week for Episode 6 of the weekly show alongside CNS Apple. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see y'all next time. Godspeed, people!